Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Lutz, and welcome to the front lines in the battle against the deep state, the cabal, the Illuminonkeys, and all those that wish to enslave all of humanity for their own selfish reasons. Today is a wonderful day because we know one of the main institutions of the cabal, the deep state, is now in the crosshairs of Donald J. Trump. Delivered by one of his generals, General Pompeo, and basically a speech today at the Nixon Library. This is some signs that we are moving in a direction, and the ship has turned. The mammoth galactic proportions of a feat is underway to reverse the deep state, to take back from the Luciferian group that is out there trying to control the world for their own selfish reasons. Can anyone have thought when Trump first got into office that China would be made out the enemy, that there was going to be a complete reveal happening of the pettivore system, the blackmail system of the deep state, that this was all be on the front burner, everyone's seeing as people are waking up to what's going on. The removal of all the foreign entanglements that America was drawn into to basically restrain it from being able to be productive for its own population. And that it was that all of the rape and pillage that have been going on against the country would be reversed. The removal of getting some of these foreign entanglements, say NAFTA, for example, the WTO, the World Economic Forum, all of these things are being distanced. The UN is in the crosshairs. Now we know, the ones that are awake, that have been awake for a while, understand that the reality is that the UN is a corporation. Who's the president of the corporation? How come you never know? You only see the Secretary General of the United Nations. There's not a president. Well, there's not a president, or is there? And it is a corporation that to belong to it, you need to be a corporation, an incorporated entity, a sub-corporation. So the countries all had to agree, hey, yeah, sure, we'll do that. Why? For the the magic money system, right? Or for them to have abundance. It's the pitch. But the reality is far from being what it actually is, right? They say it's to eliminate war, right? To bring abundance to every country. But has it happened? No. So 50 years of the United Nations, and where are we? War, war, war. So obviously, when we can see that the whole system is corrupted. Now, I noticed way back when Venezuela first took front and center stage a couple years ago, that Trump was going after communism. That set the stage. That was the first path, a first step along the path to eliminating the deep state. Why? Because China, they knew, was going to be responsible for atrocities that were across the globe. It was stretching out its hand, and it was going to envelop with all of the ugliness of the communism that they've perpetrated on their own people. They were now instituting around the world, keeping countries quiet and companies quiet about what China doesn't like. Just as an example, the release of the plague upon the world, the China virus. And we know that corporation of the subcorporation of the subcorporation that set up the United Nations had already selected China to be the new manufacturing powerhouse, the financial powerhouse, the center of the world, because it wanted to use its religion of communism around the world. And that's really what it is. And to know also, if you look back at the founding documents of what communism is, go back to read what it's all about. Communism is all about Lucifer, dedicated to Lucifer. So they tell us what they're doing as part of their rules, right? They have to tell us free will, choice, free will. But what is our choice now? What do we see happening? We see Pompeo announcing a new alliance, a world alliance of democracies. Now, I don't know if it'll end up being called that, W-A-D, WAD. I don't know. In WAD, well, this is a good organization. The UN, the UN, who knows, but the World Alliance of Democracies. So we're going to go ahead and take a look and listen to about a 5-minute clip from the speech that Pompeo gave today. Okay.
But I call on every leader of every nation to start by doing what America has done, to simply insist on reciprocity, to insist on transparency and accountability from the Chinese Communist Party. It's a cadre of rulers that are far from homogenous, and these simple and powerful standards will achieve a great deal. For too long, we let the CCP set the terms of engagement, but no longer. Free nations must set the tone. We must operate on the same principles. We have to draw common lines in the sand that cannot be washed away by the CCP's bargains or their blandishments. Indeed, this is what the United States did recently when we rejected China's unlawful claims in the South China Sea once and for all, as we have urged countries to become clean countries so that their citizens' private information doesn't end up in the hand of the Chinese Communist Party. We did it by setting standards. Now, it's true, it's difficult. It's difficult for some small countries. They fear being picked off. Some of them, for that reason, simply don't have the ability or the courage to stand with us for the moment. Indeed, we have a NATO ally of ours that hasn't stood up in the way that it needs to with respect to Hong Kong because they fear Beijing will restrict access to China's market. This is the kind of timidity that will lead to historic failure. And we can't repeat it. We cannot repeat the mistakes of these past years. The challenge of China demands exertion, energy from democracies, those in Europe, those in Africa, those in South America, and especially those in the Indo-Pacific region. And if we don't act now, ultimately the CCP will erode our freedoms and subvert the rules-based order that our societies have worked so hard to build. If we bend the knee now, our children's children may be at the mercy of the Chinese Communist Party, whose actions are the primary challenge today in the free world.
Just a moment. So notice that he basically talked about bending a knee. Keep in mind the symbology of what's been going on with the situation with the COVID, where you have Nancy Pelosi and all the Democrat leaders taking a knee, where Black Lives Matter is basically asking white people to take a knee in front of them and ask them for forgiveness, to be submissive, to submit to them, which is all about what we're talking about here, is the submission to them. But this is to be submitted to the deep state. When we talk about submission to China, keep in mind, this was going to be the worldwide government. Every other country in the world would be a tributary state to China. If you didn't fall in line with what China wanted, no money for you. If you didn't fall in line with what China wanted, then no medicines. Another virus comes out. What are you going to do? So it's about submission. So anyway, we'll continue. I've got another 2 minutes.
tyrannize inside and outside of China forever unless we allow it. Now, this isn't about containment. Don't buy that. It's about a complex new challenge that we've never faced before. The USSR was closed off from the free world. Communist China is already within our borders. So we can't face this challenge alone. The United Nations, NATO, the G7 countries, the G20, our combined economic, diplomatic, and military power is surely enough to meet this challenge if we direct it clearly and with great courage. Maybe it's time for a new grouping of like-minded nations, a new alliance of democracies.
Right there.
We have the tools.
Maybe it's time for a new alliance of democracies. We have the tools. So we have, he mentions NATO, he mentions the United Nations, he mentions that we need to come together because standing together, we can do it. But then he says maybe it's time for a new alliance. The United Nations, in my opinion, should be dismantled because of its structure that it's holding. Right, the structure of this subcorporation or subcorporation or subcorporation, it is the institution of a one world order. It's just soft. It's just quiet. It just works from the behind. It works with the money system, and it convinces everybody to be in debt. So that it in itself, the structure of it is bad. So restructuring is a possibility, right? But keeping in mind that the system of money is how it all works. So that has to be restructured. And then, are you going to release it to the Security Council with China and let them decide what to do? It's hard to see how this is going to play out unless that also is restructured. So we'll see, the ideals presented to the world, what people think about when they think about United Nations. Let's say the most beneficial thoughts, the best thoughts we have. It's great, in concept, but its design was for something completely other. So let's continue, and then we'll go back to this.
We can do it. Now we need the will. To quote scripture, I ask, is our spirit willing, but our flesh weak? If the free world doesn't change, communist China will surely change us. There can't be a return to the past practices because they're comfortable or because they're convenient. Securing our freedoms from the Chinese Communist Party is the mission of our time, and America is perfectly positioned to lead it because our founding principles give us that opportunity. As I explained in Philadelphia last week, staring at Independence Hall, our nation was founded on the premise that all human beings possess certain rights that are unalienable, and it's our government's job to secure those rights.
So just to stop there for a moment, this particular part, this is actually going towards his end of his speech here, but that we have inalienable rights. So this has to be agreed upon in the whole world, and that those unalienable rights come from God. That these cannot be taken away by any government. That's where we have to be. This is a major restructuring, right? Because that's not anywhere in the United Nations. So, but it is in the U.S. Constitution. So let's continue. Almost done.
It's a simple and powerful truth. It's meant to become a freedom for people all around the world, including people inside of China. Indeed, Richard Nixon was right when he wrote in 1967 that the world cannot be safe until China changes. Now it's up to us to heed his words. Today, the danger is clear, and today the awakening is happening. Today, the free world must respond.
The awakening is
happening. We can never go back to the past. May God bless each of you. May God bless the Chinese people. And may God bless the people of the United States of America.
Excellent. So these small things we need to pick up on and see that's the direction we're heading. When he slipped something in there like, well, maybe we need a new alliance of democracies. It's from the very beginning, you know that Trump came in and was not a fan of the United Nations or any of these international groups. But did he just go ahead and dismantle everything from day one and announce it? No. He managed it. He looked at it through clear eyes and came up with a plan. This is what is unfolding around us, and we have to do our part. We have to change out the leaders in the local governments. We have to get rid of the dictators. We have to get the people in there that are going to want to go along with everybody's inalienable rights, that they don't have the right to go ahead and plug you with a virus that is Luciferian generated. Whether you want to believe that it's a dark spirit, a devil with a pitchfork dancing around in lava land down below, or just sick people who get caught up in what is the greed of things, the 7 deadly sins. These things that envelop their soul, envelop who they are, and let them go ahead and treat the other people as their resource, as their property. However you want to think of it, we need to go ahead and step beyond that. I've got something else lined up I want to go over here. This, just to show you what path we're on. There we go. This is 1 week in the State Department. August 22nd. This is a 3-minute video from the U.S. State Department. Secretary of State Pompeo, a Polish foreign minister, signed an agreement to enhance defense cooperation between Poland and the United States.
The United States and Poland have proudly executed this new enhanced defense cooperation agreement. I know it will lead to good outcomes for each of our 2 countries and the work that we all do as part of NATO as well. It paves the way, centrally, for an additional 1,000 troops into Poland on top of the 4,500 that are here presently. That's an important strategic move for American security, too.
In 25 years, we have not seen this type of success, this type of agreement between Israel and an Arab state. What do you see under President Trump's leadership? You see peace between a Gulf state, and probably more to come, and with Israel.
Pompeo and the Iraqi Minister of Foreign Affairs.
We're committed to helping Iraq achieve economic prosperity, freedom from foreign meddling in its internal affairs, and improve relationships with its neighbors as well. This is what the Iraqi people want too, a stable, prosperous, independent Iraq, an Iraq which is for Iraqis. We touched on religious freedom, a priority for the Trump administration and a key to the Iraqi nation's flourishing. As Iraq moves forward from the ISIS persecution and genocide, the U.S. is helping the most vulnerable, including Christians, Yazidis, and Shabak, recover.
Interview with Brett Baer.
For 3.5 years, we've imposed cost on China in a way that has protected the American people from this threat. And when they refused to acknowledge the Wuhan virus, when they said, we're going to cover this up, we're going to allow people to travel across the world in spite of the fact that we know it presents a threat, President Trump is aiming to hold them accountable for the enormous loss of life all across the world, and the trillions of dollars in economic harm that the Chinese Communist Party allowed to permeate all throughout the world.
Notifies the United Nations. The United States is initiating the restoration of virtually all UN sanctions on Iran.
This process will lead to those sanctions coming back into effect 30 days from today. Our message is very, very simple. The United States will never allow the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism to freely buy and sell planes, tanks, missiles, and other kinds of conventional weapons. These UN sanctions will continue the arms embargo.
Great little piece by the State Department, right? That's 1 week. All right, let's look. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play this one for you. I have it queued up just to the right spot. And this is Bards of War, episode 115 from today. And I'm just going to play about a minute of it. And because this is really talking about the submission to China, the submission to the deep state, submission to the United Nations, and that we shouldn't put up with it. In fact, wearing masks is treason, but it's just the step to get you to the vaccine. So just listen to this one little piece.
COVID cases are falling. The sleight of hand of this virus is that whenever somebody is tested positive, they're no longer classified as a test positive, but as a case. That's a complete propaganda twist. The COVID case would mean that not only were they tested positive, but they demonstrated symptoms and in fact were being treated. That's a case. But instead now the press has maneuvered a definition of a case to anybody that tests positive for COVID. Now remember, COVID virus was engineered to do two things.
Here it is.
To spread rapidly, but to have a very low mortality rate. And furthermore, we know that the test kits themselves were infected. Many of the PPE, protective gear, were infected. All of that came from China. So the whole idea from the beginning was to create a psychosis of fear across the public so that people would willingly submit to anything that they put before them to protect them from this mysterious virus that apparently leaked out from a lab. And their end game has always been the same. 100% vaccination with a vaccine built on synthetic RNA, an enzyme called luciferase, and a nanohydrogel that once injected will replicate with nanoparticles throughout your entire body. Essentially, the vaccine is a one-stop shop to moving people from being human to transhuman in one go. It is truly the nightmare of nightmares. And the mask is the first step. And the Democrat Party, if there's anything the Democrat Party is now known for, it's the party of enslavement, both in terms of policy and in terms of symbolism. There is nothing more important to the Luciferian order than to have people submit willfully to their control. And in doing so, you're using your free will given to you by God to willfully walk away from God and submit to their control. That is the step of the mask. I read regularly comments of people that get upset over my pushing of the mask. I've gone so far as on Twitter to proclaim that wearing a mask is treason. And I feel strongly about that because we are in a state of war. And when you wear a mask, you're aiding and abetting the enemy. And if you're aiding and abetting the enemy in a time of war, you're conducting treason. Now, I understand that there are unbelievable challenges some people face. But if people don't start standing up to this, it's not going to get better. Take a look at Portland right now. Antifa has now moved from downtown in a few block area to roaming across the city and terrorizing neighborhoods. Nothing's being done. The state police now have pulled their officers out of Portland, saying it's too dangerous and they're too disrespected. I would expect that the sheriff's department would probably pull out their forces soon. And I would start to expect that further, city police will probably start quitting their job. Now, in a true tough love scenario, Portland's getting exactly what it deserves. They've earned that right. People need to stand up. And the mask is yet another one of those issues. If you keep giving yourself excuses, look at the Democrat Party and look at who your new gods are going to be, because they're going to force you not only to wear a mask, but to worship them if they gain power. And remember, they aren't after the presidency. They know that one isn't going to happen. They're after two major issues. One is local elections and getting people inoculated with the fear to submit willingly to their control. And two, they're looking for the chaos and terror that they can bring to collapse the will of people and topple our existing republic. This is a community by community fight, and it takes strength as a community to come together and stand up against this evil. Looking at what comes out of the Democrat convention, there is no question we are looking straight in the eye of the worst evil of all. And this is literally like looking into the bowels of Lucifer himself. These people are nothing less than evil. They will do anything to deceive, manipulate, and control, and to regain power at any cost.
So let's break it right there. So amazing, how we're able to see these things across the board, that the people that we've been, looking to in government, how evil they actually are, to know that there is, it's not just about the Luciferian worship that you might have seen in the movies growing up, people in black capes, and they're all doing these ceremonies, and that does exist, right? But the system of submission, the people that just go along because it's the way things are, it's what people are doing in the office place. Everybody's doing the same thing, so you got to do it too. Wearing the mask, submit. So all of these things we've been prepared for slowly over time, right? They've distorted what vaccines were in the very beginning. If you think about, how we dealt with sickness while we were growing up, the people of my age, in the mid 50s, even my kids, it was common when someone had the mumps, right? We sent our kids over to play with them. But even at that time, some of the other parents were astonished. They were thinking that was some sort of child abuse, when what we were doing was protecting our children. How they shift things over time to rely upon the government solution, to take away what as reality, as what the best thing is, because they train through the television, through the programming, now all through computers, through the videos. This Democrat convention, all virtual, nobody was there. And how do you know if any of them were really people, or the people you thought that they were? Whether there's cloning or even just deep fakes, how do you know the people are there? Look at the Hunter Biden. Something wrong with that video. Was he actually there? Something else that was pointed out was that they had were thanking Joe's brother, who recently passed away. The question is, was he sacrificed? Because the Luciferian system is about you have to sacrifice in order to advance. You have to give up something. Give up that asset, turn it over, and you'll get pretty paper. Babylonian accounting system. Something for something. You need to do something. You need to give something, not without expecting anything in return. Right? You need to expect something for return. I look at things when I have given to people in the past, that it was because I was doing it because they needed help, not because I expected to get something back. To be altruistic, in some ways, may look at being a negative by some people because you're not getting anything back. But why do they think that way? There is something that you get when you give. It is something, but it's not something you can count. It's just you feel good. Can you count how many feel goods you have? It's not something that is countable. Can you count how much love you have? You can't. So when we're building a new society, and we want to do something where we're not expecting anything in return, one of the steps to doing that is make sure that our basics are covered in the system. Right? It's not difficult to pay your bills. It's not difficult to come up with food and eat the best foods, not junk. It's not difficult to have clean water. It's not difficult to educate your kids. It takes your effort to decide what is best for your kids, what school you want them to be in, not have to be in. That we are the source of the energy that's put into the system. Right? We need to recognize that when we are doing for others, we are doing it because we want to help. I've talked about CEO space many times on my program. It is, as it was, because I was thinking Bernie Dorman, who has just passed away. He was the founder of CEO Space. It will continue. His wife, September. I love her. She's a wonderful person. A great month also. And she's carrying it on. And he died from a heart attack. I was actually had an appointment scheduled to meet with him virtually by Zoom or WhatsApp, whichever. And we would talk because he was someone who I could rely upon, who would give without expecting anything in return. That was what his organization was about. CEO Space, the concept was you have all of these top Fortune 500 company, the CEOs, CFOs, C-everythings, wanting to give back to the community. And they would come and offer to talk to just average people trying to start their first business. And they would sit around a table at mealtime. And you could sit with any of them and have a conversation. Get advice without expecting like they're going to give you a bill. Right? So this was the give back that they were looking for themselves, you know, for the feeling that they've been so blessed in the world that they can give back. And so Bernie built this CEO Space, and it was all about cooperative capitalism. And what that means is that you help everyone around you without expecting anything back. And what you'll find, if everyone else is doing exactly the same as you, everyone is just trying to help everyone around them. You're around them. They're trying to help you without expecting anything in return. You are now finding yourself in a world where everyone around you is trying to lift you up. Everyone is trying to give you a boost, to give you what you need to help you along the way. It's the opposite of the crabs in the bucket. The crab mentality is often said to be, you know, everyone, you get a bunch of crabs in the bucket, right? All of the crabs are trying to get out of the bucket, right? They're clawing to the top, right? They put their claw up. They try and pull themselves up, and another crab comes from behind, grabs them, and pulls them down so that they can get out of the bucket. Crab mentality. Everyone pulling you down. It's the opposite. Everyone giving you a push up out of the bucket. Now, maybe you think that this is not realistic. Maybe you think it's not natural. But why do you think that way? Well, I have a good idea. It's because of the system we're in, right, that trains you. It's a parasitic system. It sucks the life out of everybody. you continue to basically, get extracted what is shown to be currency, right? It is that unit of measurement to pull from you. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get away from using money or currency, right? It's a system we have and we understand. It actually was built on the concept of abundance for every country. But its structure of the pyramid centralizing everything to the top is where the problem lies, because it did not give back. The reverse of the pyramid didn't happen. Kim has mentioned, the double pyramid, the alpha and the omega. You got the one pyramid like this and one pyramid like that over top. You end up with a six-pointed star, right? Oh my goodness, there's some symbolism in there. But the reality is that it's the reversing of this. It's the energy behind that flows back to the base. If everything is flowing up, it reverses and comes back down. It's the reverse of the energy instead of it being harvested and kept. What we see now that Trump is doing is reversing this flow. It's happening before our eyes. The SPV, Special Purpose Vehicle, set up because of the Defense Production Act, underneath the Treasury, with an open checkbook to the Fed. Anything those SPVs purchase is paid for by the Fed. Open checkbook. They're buying up all the debt. Estimated 50% by the end of the year. They're buying up stock. Why do you think the stock market's going up? So this is the reversal. So when you look at the Fed balance sheet before Trump came into office, it was small. They are not carrying any debt, right? But now it's being reversed. No taxes. Stop the payroll tax. It's a big amount of money not flowing that direction, right? But they're pulling out. They're pulling out from the Fed. It's going to the SPVs. SPVs are set up to fail. Designed to fail. Why? Well, of course, they're borrowing from the Fed. Unlimited amounts. If you had a credit card that had no limit on it, and you could buy anything you wanted, and in the very end, you knew that you could just go bankrupt and then keep all that stuff, would you just go ahead and do that? Well, I think so. If you knew that the system was taking from everyone, right, and it was supposed to pay out to everyone, but it was set up in a way that that never happened, and it just was stored in the very most wealthy at the very top. The system is being reversed. If let's say 100% of all debt is purchased by these SPVs, let's say it takes them another year to buy up everything, all the debt, every municipal bond from everything, all of your mortgages, all of your credit card bills. These SPVs buy it up. It's happening. We hear reports of people having their mortgages just paid off. Before it was the student loans. All of a sudden, there's no balance left. What happened? Why is this happening? Quietly. Behind the scenes, but yet being told exactly what's going on. We were told. Mnuchin said, this is what's happening. I'm not making this up. I'm connecting some dots. If the Treasury is in the first loss position of the SPVs, if the SPVs go bankrupt, everything the SPVs own go to the Treasury. Without any debt. So everything gets paid off. All of the stock market is owned by the U.S. Treasury, which means the U.S. people. The Americans own Wall Street. All those corporations. Could we then replace this interlocking board members that are out there, with the 150 countries, the Luciferian interlocking group that Karen Hudis has always mentioned on her programs about the network of corporate control, and the study that was done that proved that there was only 150 corporations that ruled the world with these interlocking board members. You could replace them. And these guys are probably wearing the robes in the Luciferian worship and rituals and doing all sorts of things. These guys were told, if it was all about money, you can get out. Just resign, get out. That's why they say watch the resignations. If you hurt someone, you've got a problem. Those are the people that are going to be really paraded in front of others. And the worse their atrocities, it's going to come out. This is going to be very hard for the world. This is not about America. It's not about just America and Europe. It's not about America, Europe, and Asia. It's not about 192 countries or 193 countries. It's about everyone on the planet. It's about the planet. This is changing. We can see this. Everything around us it's happening. I pointed out Mike Pompeo giving a speech. Maybe it's time for an association, a world. Not an association. I'm sorry. Alliance, a world alliance of democracies. Maybe to replace the UN, maybe to be there as a counterbalance to the UN, however that works out. But this is some hard things we're going to be going through as we change things, as we restructure things. And the people that are waking up are going to be very sick from this. They're going to be grief-stricken by how much they were involved. And they didn't even want to look at how much they were involved. They may have heard something. They may have closed their eyes and looked the other way. So I just got to note my battery is low even though I'm plugged in. Oh, that's because ultimately the plug has been disconnected. One moment. Ultimately, we're going to have to help a lot of these people. Some of you may not even think that it's worth helping. Some of them, it's going to be good to help them on the boat to send them to an island. Maybe it's Guantanamo. Maybe they stay there forever. Maybe that's where they all go. Some of them are put to death. That is the karma of the situation. I don't feel sad about that. I don't. I don't think that it is bad karma for that to happen. It's the result of karma that it happens. And the cat agrees. She's probably looking for the kittens that are actually sitting behind me on the cushion behind there in the chair. I'm kind of sitting forward a bit. This is one of them. This is another. So, we have actually some sorry, to do a little side note here. So we also now have 3 turkeys that's been added to the household. Unusual. Well, it's food is of issue nowadays, right? And one of the things is raising animals to help overcome that. And this was basically given to my wife's grandparents from their farm. So it's basically some help in very interesting how things come about. I wish we were growing more vegetables. My wife likes growing herbs. I kind of started it. I was growing some herbs. And she started keeping on, but I want to grow some tomatoes and some. I love growing tomatoes, actually. Anyway, little side note. So, anyway, well, that shows people come together, to help in the times with the way you can. You don't. It's not that you can always do everything. Sometimes your help is just lending an ear. Talking about the what's going on, adding to positive support. Sometimes that's all it's needed. I try to basically find the positive spin that on what we're doing. Finding these nuggets, like Pompeo asking, this is not something that was just slipped in. This is done almost like everything that we've been dealing with is a psyop. The reversal of this is also a psyop. Operations, psychological operation, changing of the mind so we can change the reality. And that's what we're experiencing. The ones out there that have been doing the psyops against the betterment of everyone are being faced with an amazing psyop, right, of those guys, of our guys, the number 17 movement. I noticed the word, that letter that I've misspoken has an effect on the viewers because less of it gets shadow banned completely. We only get the people that are really looking for this. Right? Not everyone even gets the notification. It's the people that look for the notifications, or the people that do it every day, they get the notification. The people that haven't looked in a couple weeks, suddenly they stop getting the notification. All of these little things they have to control the mind. Programming. So that you don't notice. Because when you notice, you get upset and you try and make a difference. And so they try to stop you from making a difference. So. Anyway, let's see. We're close to an hour, about 53 minutes in. So let's see. Do we have any questions? Let me switch over. We just have Sam Gold here. Hello, Sam. Ben. Oh no, they're all flowing in right now. All right. Let's see. So Sam, bend the knee, bow down, submission. That's it. Subcontractor of a subcontractor of a subcontractor of a subcontractor. That leads all the way back to the Vatican and Britain. That is true. The Crown Corporation. This goes back to that which the Crown Corporation was set up because the royalty of England was told, hey, by the bankers, our favorite Rothschilds, right, that are there, said, hey, you want to finance your war? Sell some shares in the Crown. And then, of course, after Waterloo, which was the winning of the war against Napoleon, actually was the defeat of England, in that they Rothschilds flipped that around and basically got up all those shares of the Crown Corporation at pennies on the pound. So, yes, and the Vatican is already back there. But keep in mind that it may be that Trump swooped in and rewrote all of this, and he's now the exchequer, took over that position from the Pope. Right now, there's a whole storyline about that we've talked about. But anyway, let's continue here. Sam says it's not China. It was released in China, but it's the COVID is a British bug created by Pilbright Institute and Quinnick-funded DARPA and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Yeah, I get that, right? And it was also developed in Fort Hood, and it's a worldwide event, is what we're really looking at here. We've got this is a worldwide deep state. They come at it from every single angle, and yes, they're involved as well. So, so we got to incorporate everything that they're doing. All right, what else do we have here? So Moonshine Girl. I had measles, chickenpox, mumps, and so far no COVID. Even though it was gone to the nursing home. Wow. Well, that's something to be said. How much is when we develop our immunities, does it actually help prevent other things from taking hold? All right. Well, next is I had measles when I was little during JFK, mumps during MLK. Right. And I've got something else. I'm glad that this came up, the JFK thing. Let me switch gears here for a moment. This is a good thing, really cool. Let me prepare it here for a moment, and it's basically about JFK Jr. Right, and is JFK Jr. coming back? That's really what we're talking about here. So. Waiting for this to pop up. Now I have this on my Telegram group, wwg1wga.love Telegram group. Why is it not there? There it is. Okay. All right. So let me now share my. Hold on. I gotta actually put this up here. So this is Robert Trump's last tweet. Robert Trump, who died recently, last week, his very last tweet, JFK Jr. is Q. Well, with 320 retweets of that, interesting. And then the next thing we know, we have account suspended. Now that's actually against the rules. So interesting. How does that happen? How is it that that gets suspended at that time? It's not supposed to be. Right? It's a memorial to leave it up. Right? It's everything that was all about Robert Trump. Why can't you see his stuff now? Why was that taken away from us? And why would he say JFK Jr. is Q? Now we've had these theories going on from a very long time ago, right? Now we've had Q respond when people said, "Is JFK Jr. alive?" And he said, Q responded, "No." There he goes, saying the word again. The letter Q. So hard to get away from it. So we can see that there is something to it, right? There is something that's happening right now. Is he going to come out right now, or does this continue through the whole next term. I think that this is that when he's going to reappear, that it's going to be a time of bringing the world back together. This will heal both sides, because we have this division in America / the world, but this division can be healed with something like JFK Jr. coming out and saying, these are the people, the Luciferian worshipers that destroyed Camelot, that killed his father, and that they are the ones that are going to be now feeling the retribution of the world. And while that's happening, there has to be a healing that takes place. I think that's when he shows up. This is not the time for JFK Jr. to show up. And when Q said, no, he's not alive, there was a point made that since JFK, the president, was dead, that there is no more Junior. There's no more Junior. It's just JFK. So the new JFK is, which we call Junior, is no longer Junior. So I think this is when he comes out. I don't think it's now. It'd be great as the vice president now, right? But it's not the time. Maybe on Trump's third run, the third term, which I do think is possible. Really. Third, fourth, fifth. I think that is possible. And there's some reasons for it. Let me give you a couple of easy reasons. These trials are going to take place for treason against the Obama-Biden administration. That's not where they're focused right now, but that's coming. Now let's say 2 years down the line, because these things take time. It's all been wrung out, and everybody realizes that the tragedy happened, and these bad people were in place, and they did some bad things, and there was insurrection that took place. There has to be repercussions for this. Part of the repercussions could be a bill passed that basically allows, or an amendment to the Constitution, or whatever, or I guess it would be an amendment to basically say that it's no longer just 2 terms. They're suspending that because of what has happened. It's denying the people a great president, one of the greatest presidents that there ever has been from the beginning of time. Right? We've had great presidents, but this president is saving the world, as the press basically said in the press conference. Are they trying to get him to agree to being the savior of the world? And in this context of the deep state, it is. The Luciferian deep state is being defeated. Trump is the leader. And we are winning. And we're winning big. Okay, let's end it right there. Please do send some contributions. I've still got things I'm behind on, and anything you can do will help. The small $20 transaction or donation came yesterday. Thank you very much. The bills are not monumental, but they are there, and I do have to take care of them. So please do what you can. It is amazing the support that I've received. I couldn't even think of doing this on a donation basis of where I just asked people before. And I find myself, again, remembering my own lessons, to allow others to have the blessing. And I'm not saying because it's self-serving for me to say so. It really is the way I've always proceeded. I've had, people, my family member asking, why am I giving money to people? And it was substantial amounts as well, thousands of dollars. at times people really in need. Because I had the ability to do it. So this is, and I didn't expect anything back, right? But I do think that there is something that comes back, and it is in your spirit and in your direction you're going. I can see it as empowerment, as in ability for us to